have never been this desperate for anything in my life than I have been for these. Tell me, why is it so difficult to first get a diagnosis of ADHD in India and then to convince your doctor that your symptoms are intense enough for you to take medication alongside therapy, and then after begging and crying and literally joining your hands in front of them, you finally get a prescription, and then none of these stores have it. Like, I live in a metro city and this is the condition, and I wonder what would happen if I'm ever in my hometown and then I run out of my medicines, because some days I just can't function without them. And no, I'm not addicted. I literally forget to take my medicines on most days, but it's more of like the days when I have an important exam or very important work that requires a lot of concentration. I know I would not be able to do it without them. But before I start my ranting spree of how limited options of medicines we have in India and then how we never find stock in any pharmacy, let's get started with the video. Hello there, welcome back to my channel that I keep hosting every now and then, ADHD Max. But because I was so guilty about not posting for so long, I decided to shoot today despite having this ugly ass pimple on my forehead. So I'll really appreciate it if you could ignore it for the rest of the video. That is if you stay till the rest of the video. I am still awkward with introductions. So if you're new here, hi, I am Vanshita. I talk about ADHD, mental health and everything neurodivergence because let's face it, India does not have the awareness or the support for it. Today's video is super important. We will be talking about ADHD medication and the options available in India. I get so many DMs from people asking me what medicines I am on, what my dosage is, and what side effects I face and what lifestyle changes I've done, blah blah blah. And so I had to make a video about it because typing all of that would have taken a lot. And so if you've ever felt lost, confused or overwhelmed by all the ADHD medicine options and drugs, I have got your back. I am going to break down everything in this video. Types of meds, how they work, dosage, side effects, and my own personal experience and opinions. Just a small disclaimer here that I am not a medical professional, and so please don't go by my words or advice and pop any drugs. Talk to your doctor about what medicine options will suit you best because it's very subjective depending on your lifestyle, your work routine, your habits, accessibility, and other underlying medical conditions, etc. etc. And everything I share in this video is based on my research done on the internet and talking to some medical professionals from the industry and my personal experience of taking medicines, like what has been prescribed to me, what I have been taking, what I am currently on, what side effects I have faced and all of that. And also insights and first-hand experience from some ADHD community members that I'm part of in Bangalore. So big shout out to everyone who contributed in the making of this video. You know who you are and you're amazing. Okay, so let's begin. ADHD medicines basically help with focus, impulse control and overall brain function. ADHD is not just about being hyperactive or distracted. It's a neurological condition where our brains struggle with dopamine regulation. And medicines are very helpful in filling that gap. There are two main types of ADHD medicines. The first are stimulants. These medications increase the levels of dopamine and norepinephrine in your brain. This in turn helps with focus, impulse control, better short-term memory, and overall enhanced brain function. Stimulant medication works quickly and is preferably the first line of treatment for ADHD. The second are non-stimulants. These medicines don't directly increase dopamine in your brain like stimulants do. Instead, they work in different ways to regulate these chemicals in your brain and to improve your attention. Some non-stimulants like atomoxetine increase norepinephrine in your brain over time, while others like clonidine affect different receptors in your brain. Non-stimulants usually take longer to show results, but it might be a better fit for people who might experience side effects from stimulant medicines or those who might have other health conditions like anxiety or high blood pressure. Now coming to the available options we have. So stimulants are like the gold standard of ADHD medication, but India has very limited options sadly. So the thing is that India primarily relies on methylphenidate based medications, while in countries like the US, there are amphetamine and lisdexamfetamine options like Adderall and Vyvanse, all the popular ADHD medicines you keep seeing on the internet. But sadly, they are legally banned in India. And there's no way you can actually source them from your NRI cousins and friends. Trust me, I've tried. And NCB, if you're watching this, I am just very funny and this is not true. Okay, jokes aside, the big issue here is that amphetamine based medications, the ones that are legally banned in India, tend to work for longer and might also be more effective for a lot more people. But methylphenidate, on the other hand, works in a different mechanism, and it also works for like a shorter duration of time. Narayan Murthy would not be very happy with MPH, would he? So in conclusion, whatever options we have in India are like a watered down version of the OG ones. Now, starting with what options we have and what generally the doctors here prescribe to ADHD patients, the very commonly prescribed stimulant medication is Advise. The dosage typically starts at 5 mg and may go up to 60 mg per day depending on what your doctor advises according to your preference and what you may need. The side effects of Advise are that you can lose your appetite, you can have trouble sleeping, you may have drastic mood changes, and you may get headaches. Some people also feel a crash after the medicine wears off, like they may feel like a zombie or extremely lethargic or just exhausted once the medicine just comes down, or like the stim is not in your body anymore. The second option we have is Inspiral. It comes in two variants, SR and IR. SR is suppressed release and IR is instant release. I think the terms explain themselves pretty well, but instant release is where the medicine instantly ups your dopamine, but suppressed release does it slowly and gradually and also lasts a little bit longer. Inspiral is a slow release version of Advise, and so there are like frequent ups and downs. The dosage is again between 10 mg to 54 mg, and it may just vary on what symptoms and what intensity of symptoms you have. The side effects are also very similar to Advise, but they are usually milder because of the suppressed and delayed release. And Inspiral is also like a better option for people who need full day coverage. So for people who work like desk jobs and all of that, it's better because of the extended release. It lasts for long and they don't need to take like multiple doses of it. So I am currently on Inspiral. It is effective, but for me, I think the dose keeps changing. So I need to consult with my doctor more often to figure out why the medicines have stopped working or why are they like numbing me a lot. And honestly, sometimes the side effects just don't feel like they are worth it as well, because I get anxiety, my heartbeat goes up, like I can physically sometimes hear my own heartbeat, and yeah, it gets a bit terrible. I also develop a very strong dislike towards food, so even my favorite food items or even sweets for that matter don't appeal to me as such, and my appetite goes down for sure, but I just can't eat anything in that moment, not even take a piece of chocolate. So that is a problem. And then once the medicine wears down, I hog on like snacks because I have a lot of cravings for some reason. Like this usually happens after a bad crash. I just can't eat normal food. I want something either extremely sour, extremely tangy, extremely sweet, something that just hits my taste buds and helps me get more dopamine or something. And then that affects my physical health because my hormonal fluctuations start getting worse, and then there are more issues like acne and all of that. And I've actually heard this from other women in the community as well. They felt like the medicines were directly impacting their hormones in a negative way. Like they would have weight fluctuations, their period would get worse, like they would get cramps or it would get irregular, and they have also complained of like high blood pressure or low blood pressure and other issues like these with Inspiral and other stimulants of ADHD. So it's extremely important that you keep a tab of what changes you're going through in your body, what kind of problems you're facing, or what has gotten better, so that when you are in a session you just have all the details written down and your doctor can also completely understand what will work the best for you. And for me personally, the crash after the medicine is also very weird, and I sometimes feel like I've been knocked into consciousness and I was in some other world when I was under the influence of the medicine. It's like I am high on something, and it gets really difficult for me to like socialize with people at that time because I'm so numb. I cannot really think of what the person is saying. I zone out very much, and I think the best thing is that it quiets my brain and I can do the repetitive boring tasks of my day, like from my job, like documenting something, maintaining sheets, doing research, and it also helps me with household chores like laundry. But again, when I say that it helps me be productive, that doesn't mean that I get very creative on the medicine. It numbs me down, so my ideas and the flow of thoughts are also very limited, and so it gets difficult for me to get ideas or write like a script or anything along those lines. I can only do monotonous tasks like copy pasting something, talking to somebody on the call, and just focusing on one thing, like doing research, reading something, getting all the information out there. But creative outlet just kind of stops for me for a while until I start nearing the wear, or once I just come back to this world from being the medicine high. So yeah, I would say for me personally, the stims have been like a sort of gamble for me every morning. I would wake up and I don't know if I'm taking the pill today and going to be completely numb for the entire day, or if I'm going to take the pill and then hyperfixate on a task I've been procrastinating for months and just complete it right there and then. So some days I feel like, okay, it's worth it if I get the work done, but then other days I'm like, oh, I went to that event and I could not really socialize, could not make new friends, or could not even talk to people properly because I was so numb and quiet and just sitting in the corner like a shy introverty person. I am an introvert, but I do like talking to people as well. I think that's not an introvert, whatever. Coming back to our topic, there are also other stimulant options available like Concerta, Attendate and Modalert. Modalert is mostly available over the counter and it's not as hard of a drug as the other stimulants are, so you can get it without a prescription. However, I would advise you to not take it without consulting a doctor first, because it can really hamper your appetite, your mood and all of the other side effects that generally the stims bring along with them. So please don't take the risk. Don't try to complete the deadline. Do not try to pull an all-nighter and walk your ass off, because it's really not good for you in the long term. And any form of medication that's meant for ADHD or something meant for the brain can manifest itself in very different ways for your physical health as well. Like it can rise your stress up, your anxiety up, you can gain a lot of cortisol. So there's this one more point, that unless your cortisol goes down, your meds are not going to work properly. So you need to make sure that you're eating right, you're sleeping right, you're doing everything right, just for the meds to also kick in and work. And it's really an irony that for even ADHD medications to work, you need to be disciplined, which is again something that a lot of ADHD folks struggle with. I'm like, you need to treat me for something and then you ask me to do the same thing that I need to be treated for. It does not really make sense, but I guess it is what it is. Again, I've also come across people for whom stimulants did not work at all, and again, it depends very much on your body type and if you have any autoimmune diseases, or if you have any medical condition, or how you're taking it. So it really depends and might or might not work for you. A lot of people also experience extreme sensory overload when they're on stimulants, like the slightest of noise would distract them, or they would just feel extremely irritated at, say, sounds, lights, textures, even of food or any surface you sit in, like cushions, bed sheets. So it's very much advisable, and not from a doctor POV, but more of like experiential POV, where all the members, whoever made stimulants work for them, said that sorting a schedule out and having a routine really worked in their favor, in terms that their medicines were working really well for them. And again, as it stays ironical, having a routine with ADHD is really difficult, because for me, I get bored in like 2 weeks tops. 2 weeks I would do a lot of things from my routine. I would make a chart and I would paste it over my head. I would paste it on my desk everywhere so I can see it. And then 2 weeks later, it would just exhaust me. Like it would just overwhelm me, and I'm like, okay, this is boring and I need to change this ASAP. So that is where I have struggled with stimulants a lot, because I don't eat a proper breakfast before taking the medicine, and you should really take a protein rich breakfast before your stimulants. I've heard that people said it's worked for them better when there was like protein involved in the diet. And I did take eggs a couple of days and then took my stimulants, and I could not really tell the difference much, because I did not have a lot of like concentration work to do that day. So I am still in the process of having a breakfast and then taking my stimulant after. So I will let you know the updates in the next part. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Moving on. So now we'll talk about the non-stimulant options in India. So the first one and the most prescribed non-stimulant option for ADHD is atomoxetine. And the very popular ones in the market are Axepta, Atentrol and atomoxetine. Atomoxetines are SNRIs. I will put the full form here because it's too long to pronounce. The usual dosage for atomoxetine starts at around 10 mg and can go up to 40 mg per day, depending on what your needs are. The most common side effects are having a dry mouth, feeling nauseous, having mood changes, and feeling dizzy sometimes. And atomoxetine is best for people who have anxiety along with ADHD, because stimulants tend to increase your anxiety and your blood pressure, so it's also not good for people who already struggle with blood pressure issues. So I have a very interesting anecdote to tell you guys. Wow, I used the word anecdote. My professor is gonna be so impressed. So I have something to tell you about Axepta. When I first got diagnosed, my doctor asked me to be in therapy. And I was in talk therapy for a while, but it was not really working out for me because, I was a bit desperate to make it work, to get fixed, and because I had a lot of things to do. And because also I was in a very weird, very low phase of my life. My depression had hit me really bad. That is when I went for a diagnosis. I got misdiagnosed a couple of times and then I was finally diagnosed. So yeah, therapy was not really working out for me. I was fired from a job. I was working then. I had failed my exam and my results had just come in. And so yeah, it was a month of the horrible of horrible things that could happen to me. And I also started having really weird physical problems in my body. Like thyroid started fluctuating a lot and I gained a lot of weight very suddenly. I had a lot of acne on my face. I started having hair fall and a lot of things were happening all at once, even physically or mentally. And so I wanted a quick fix. And so after literally begging and crying in front of my psychiatrist, she finally gave me Axepta. And I was really happy. I started taking it, and then like a couple of days went fine because it was like, okay, not much of changes into me, because again, remember, non-stimulants work slowly and gradually. From the third day onwards is when I started feeling very lethargic, and because I'm predominantly inattentive, so I tend to just delay a lot of things and procrastinate a lot, and that kind of shot up too much. My symptoms had intensified after the medicines. It was supposed to cure it, but the opposite started happening, and I just could not understand what was happening. I thought maybe it would take 3-4 days and then it would get better, but then slowly things just got worse. Even for having food, I had to drag myself downstairs to actually have food on my plate from the kitchen. And a week into taking those tablets, I wanted to myself, but I was sane enough to realize I did not really want to myself. It was more of the medicines acting on me. And then after I shared this with my psychiatrist, I was put on antidepressants, and that actually even worsened it for me. And then I started having sleep issues, and then I was put on sleep medications like clonazepam and melatonin, and they just kind of made my physical health worse, even my mental health worse, because I would not be able to sleep despite having a really high dose of the drugs, and I was just up all night just cursing myself, cursing this life, and then again going back to that rabbit hole of myself. But I'm glad I had the right support around me, and I did not really actually end up doing anything like that, but instead I turned to my doctor and I was like, okay, this is not working out. And about 4 to 5 months after my diagnosis, I was put on Inspiral, and until now I have been on Inspiral. On and off, I have not taken it for the entire 1.5 years. I'm only taking it when work is too much. I talk to my doctor and I just let him know that okay, I'll start with this dose for 2 weeks, and then I'll up it to what the regular ones was, and then I would just keep doing that way. And until now, I have not experimented with any other medication, because I am really planning to work with mood stabilizers next. I think stimulant is also not really working for me because it tones down my personality a lot, and what my work involves is me being on the camera a lot, me being creative and writing a lot, so it does not really help. And then there have been people in the community who have told me that mood stabilizers and SSRIs have really worked for them, or a combination of all of them along with stimulants have worked really well. And so I'm also planning to see for myself what would perfectly work for me. Okay, moving on, the second non-stimulant option is clonidine. These medicines were originally for blood pressure, but they can also be used to control impulse and regulate your hyperactivity. So this is the best for people who are predominantly hyperactive. So you're very restless, or you can not sit in one place, or you face extreme difficulty in concentrating on one single thing. I think this really helps you physically and mentally both concentrate or be in one place. The dosage is very less. It's 0.1 to 0.3 mg per day, and the common side effects are drowsiness, fatigue and low blood pressure. This is also a very good fit for people who struggle with their sleep, or who are restless, or have aggressive or too much hyperactive behavior. Okay, now for some, the slide is killing me, sorry. Okay, now for some important things that I wish someone told me before I had started taking my medication, and I look like a duffer. Okay, so a small note before that is I did zero research before starting my meds, and I was desperate. Like I told you, please don't judge me. For starters, medication is not a quick fix. It's not, oh, I popped a pill, abracadabra, I'm a neurotypical. No, it helps, but taking therapy, having a good lifestyle, or even making small tiny changes to your current lifestyle if that's very unhealthy, and some healthy coping strategies are equally important. I know it sounds boring and basic and pretty uncool for ADHD folks, but let me tell you, everyone I've come across who has been on medication has told me that changing their lifestyle has really worked for them. And I have not done that yet, except for a few tweaks here and there, but I have not really made a lifestyle that would perfectly, align with my medication routine. But once I do it, I am pretty sure there would be no stopping me. So just have your basics in place, have enough protein, sleep well, work out a bit, or just go for a run, or just walk, cut off alcohol, and maybe tone down on the smoking if you do, and eat proper meals and have enough water. I think this will really do the trick, because the medicines will work in your favor and not against your brain. And I mean, that's pretty much the goal we are here for, right? And I know it might get difficult to set a routine and do all of those because it already sounds overwhelming, but then again, strategies are your friends. There are a lot of ADHD friendly hacks and tools that we do not know about, or we know about them but they're not as common or as normal in like the neurotypical world and amongst our friends and family, so we just do not use them. But I swear to God, no matter how weird it seems, no matter how unusual it looks like, just do it if it makes your life easier. Like a very small simple example is using makeup wipes instead of micellar water, even though everybody recommends using the water because it's more effective. I just feel it's too much steps and I go for the wipes instead. And just like that, there are so many other things you can do to your life, just small changes that will just, not make you lose more dopamine over one single task. And it's the best, honestly. Now, finding the right dose will take time. Some people will respond to medications quite well and immediately, while others, like me, may need a lot of amendments made and a lot of visits to the psychiatrist. So prepare to go broke. And anyway, your body is going to stay with you the longest, unlike handbags and all of that. So you should invest in that. Is what I got told by a lot of people, and I'm just passing it on. It's not my original words, and I also do not really agree to it much. Handbags are nice. I like handbags. That being said, also side effects can and do happen. So if something feels off, just talk to your doctor. And please don't lose hope and talk to your doctor about your symptoms, issues, changes in body, problems in excruciating detail. It's very important that your doctor should know what's happening to your body and your mind after you start taking the medication. And sometimes it can be really hard to notice what's really happening. For me personally, it's just very difficult because I just don't recognize or realize what's happening around me. So what I was doing was I was documenting every single day of any small minute thing that was really happening with me. So if it was like, say, my weight, if it was a mood swing or too much cravings for things that I generally do not consume, I would just note it down for my next session. So just start noting every single change in your physical health or even your mental health. Any different kind of thoughts coming to you, anything you're obsessing over, something you feel like doing, not necessarily yourself but like other extreme thoughts, even mood swings for that matter, or like changes in your bowel movement. And so whenever you are in your next session with your doctor, you can like actually tell them, and then they would guide you better with what could be a potential side effect from the medicine, or what could be just like your regular lifestyle issue. I don't know. I mean, I have been told that a lot of times, so I carry a lot of trauma. I'm sorry. Also, you might start feeling a little bit like robot type and numb on medicines because it like tends to quiet you down. But do not worry, it will not change your personality. And if you feel like any medicine is doing that, it's not the right fit for you. Talk to your doctor and get it changed as soon as possible. And no matter what, just keep your caretaker or your doctor or a loved one just a text away, because you do not want to end up in an unwanted situation, because this whole medication thing can get really tricky sometimes. For me, initially, I think the hardest part with taking medicines or deciding to take medicines was judgment. And not just from other people but within myself, because although my parents were not getting it, even though they were in the session and the doctor told them everything, and like my friends, they are quite mental health informed, we're still like, Vanshita, do you really need to take pills to sleep, or do you really need to like take medicines to like calm down and concentrate and work? And of course I understand it was not coming from a judgment point of view, but more of like a concern that this might really affect your health and all of that. Like, why not just take therapy and talk to us and like have strategies around you and hacks and buy things, invest in things that help you cope with your symptoms or help down intensify your struggles. It put me into this whole cycle of oh, I would have to take these for the rest of my life, and now I'm like a druggie, and even though it was prescribed, I still felt like I was on drugs and I should really not be doing it, and what if I get addicted to it, and what if this is how my entire life is, what if something really major happens, and all sorts of stupid things and questions. But I think I read about it more online, talked to more people who were on medicines before me and who have been on medicines for a long while, talked to more people in the industry, like my therapist friends, a couple of psychiatrists I knew from a community, and then I think I just accepted that it's fine, it's just medicines, it's just support, and it's not something that is unhealthy coping mechanism like I am really accepting it to be. Like, for example, if you had diabetes, you would not miss out on your insulin every day, right? So ADHD meds are also the same. They just help our brains function properly, and I don't see anything wrong in that. And one more important thing is, if you are planning to start medication or any kind of treatment for ADHD, please go to a psychiatrist that is ADHD informed and has dealt with patients who have ADHD before. Because I've noticed a lot of Indian psychiatrists, or generally anyone practicing in mental health in India, are not very much neurodivergent informed all the time. So I would not want you to put yourself in a situation where you are being judged, or where you are being ignored, or where your struggles are not really being acknowledged and really looked out for. And for anyone who has gone through that experience before, big hugs to you. So do your research, be patient, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Talking out really helps, like really helps. And if you have any questions, any doubts, anything to share, anything you feel I might have missed in regards to stimulants and non-stimulants, please drop them in the comments. I would love to have a chat with you. Also, I'll be uploading a part 2 of this topic because there is a lot that needs to be covered still, like mood stabilizers, SSRIs and antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, sleep medication, and a lot of other things. Like a lot of people around me who have ADHD also have other issues, and so they need to also kind of balance their medications out. And some people have really taken like creative, innovative routes, and I would really want to share those with you guys, so you can also inform about them to your caretaker and to your psychiatrist, so you can also like experiment with all sorts of things and find what's perfect for you. And so yeah, that was it. It's a wrap from my end. I really hope this video helped you understand the ADHD medication, treatment, and everything available to us in India. Also, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and everything, because my imposter syndrome thinks this channel is a bad idea. So your support would really help me keep going and shut this out. So I'll take your leave. Thank you. Bye-bye. Big chummies and big hugs to everyone watching this till the end. And I'll see you in the next video very soon, hopefully. And don't stay on YouTube for too long. Tata.